Great pleasure to welcome back to our show. She was with us a couple of years ago when she was down playing at the Van Wezel, and she will be doing a show along with Tim Conway and Chuck McCann. We're talking with the great comedian, impressionist, and TV personality Louise Duart. Louise, thanks for being with us again. How have you been?
Well, I have been great. It's a little chilly in New York right now. It's about 5 degrees.
I was saying, you missed the cold weather down here. We had some of that, not quite that cold, but in the 20s and 30s in Florida. But you won't have it next week when you're down.
That's right. Hopefully you'll get me some nice warm weather.
That's right. Well, it's been too long since you've been down this way. Well, where have you been?
Yeah.
I'm glad to have you back, and you're going to be doing, this is really a great show. I know Tim has been down a few times before with, unfortunately, the late Harvey Korman, but this is kind of a tribute to the old Carol Burnett show you're doing, right, with Tim and Chuck McCann, right?
It is. It's called Tim, Conway and Friends, and Tim and myself and a wonderful, wonderful sketch comedian actor, Chuck McCann, who has done a million commercials, and an old friend of Tim's. They've worked together many, many times, and he's just a joy to work with. Of course, we miss Harvey. I mean, it's just not the same without Harvey, but it is a wonderful show. It's a different show, but it's wonderful. And Tim, of course, is just, he's our comedy icon of the century, so.
I remember Chuck McCann. I grew up in New York, and Chuck used to do a kid show up there, so I know him very well from his work. A great comedic actor, and one of those people you may not know the name, but once you see his face, you'll remember. I remember that guy.
That's absolutely true, and it's so cute because he's such a big guy, as you know, and Tim's a little guy, so the two of them on stage makes you laugh without them saying a word.
What's the format of the show? I mean, I know it's kind of a tribute to some of the classic sketches. What's your part in the show? And first of all, how did you get involved with the show?
Well, first off, my part in the show is doing some sketches with Tim and Chuck, and then while they're changing costumes and sets, I'll come out and I'll do pieces of my own act, which I'm an impressionist, so I do a million different characters, and so we kind of weave my act and their act, and then we work together, and it all comes out in the wash, and it's really a fun show. I actually got to meet Tim. This is through an amazing, as my husband says, a God wink. A God wink is one of those things where you say, wow, what are the odds of that happening? It's just a divine alignment in our lives. Years ago, when I was a kid, many years ago, and I loved the old Carol Burnett show. I just lived for that show, and I loved Carol, and I was brought up in a very strict Catholic household, and every week my mother would take me to the Catholic church, and she'd say in her thick Boston accent, here's a quad, and light a candle for the souls in purgatory. So I would light that candle, but unfortunately I didn't pray for the souls in purgatory. I would pray that someday I would meet Carol Burnett, and that someday my prayer was that I would work with the great Tim Conway and Harvey Korman. Well, years later, I left Quincy, Massachusetts. I ended up going to Los Angeles. I got a job and started working in television. Got a job with a show called Off the Wall, which was a TV show of sketch comedians. I've seen a lot of sketch comedians in it.
I remember that, yeah.
And I ended up doing an impression of Carol Burnett when she used to ask questions of the audience. Well, unbeknownst to me, Carol saw the show, and then I get a phone call one day at my home in Woodland Hills, California, and on the other end I hear, "Hi, Louise, this is Carol Burnett. Listen, I just saw you do an impression of me, and I thought it was a hoot, and I would just love to meet you." Well, I couldn't believe it. Here's a little girl's prayer coming true. I went to her office the next week. I met Carol. I spent a good part of the day with her. It was just one of the greatest days of my life. And when I left her and I went outside, I looked up into the skies and I said, oh, God, if I could just meet Tim and Harvey now. And years later, totally unrelated, I get a phone call from Tim Conway. He had seen some of my work. He was looking for, Harvey and he were looking for a woman they could travel with. Carol Burnett wasn't going to do it, and Carol Burnett, frankly, would have been, I think, too expensive for him. So they were looking for someone who could do sketches, someone who had their own act also, and a tape came across Tim's desk, and he looked at my work and called me up out of the blue, and that was 10 years ago.
Wow, that's a good story, yeah.
Yeah, and we worked on the road with Harvey for 8 wonderful years, and now Tim and Chuck and myself are back on the road. And to be honest with you, after Harvey passed away, all of us were devastated. Actually, my son was engaged to Harvey's daughter.
Wow, I didn't know that.
So, yeah, so it was devastating for everyone. And, we ended up really all being like a big family. So when he passed away, Tim had said, I probably won't do this again, get on the road and do a show again without Harvey. And then about 2 years went by, and he called up and he said, we're in such uncertain times here. People really need to laugh. He said, what do you say we just give it a try? We'll go on the road. And we went to Canada, and we did 4 theaters in Canada. And the show sold out. There were like 4,000-seat theaters, and they sold out. And so Tim said, well, I guess there's a need for it. And so he said, let's just do a little bit at a time. Well, we've got about 35 dates booked so far through, I think, October, and there's more coming. And from what I understand, a lot of the dates in Florida there's getting to be a shortage of tickets. So if people want tickets, they really need to call right away because they are selling out fast.
You're going to be doing Fort Myers on the 4th, right? Then here in Sarasota on the 5th of February, and then Ruth Eckerd, Clearwater on the 6th. So you got a three-day swing here in Florida. That's
exactly right. And I think, I'm trying to think which one is already sold out. I'm not sure. But,
call them anyway. We're at the theater. You have three chances to see them and take advantage because, like you, I grew up watching the Carol Burnett show Saturday nights at 10, part of that. Remember that great TV block? You had Mary Tyler Moore, to Bob Newhart, to Carol Burnett. Wasn't that a great night of TV back then?
It was history-making, really. Those are the shows we all remember so well. And honestly, when Tim comes through the curtain, for the baby boomers, he's like a rock star, and he's such a gracious man, too. Not only is he funny, but he's probably the nicest man other than my husband that I've ever met. He's really a sweetheart. And we all kind of travel together because my husband, Trey, is an author, so he gets to travel with me. And Tim's wife travels with him, and his daughter works behind the stage. She works as one of the stage managers, and other family members are on the road with us, so it really is one big happy family.
Yeah, I had a chance to talk to Tim last time the show was down here a couple of years ago. Very nice man, and does a lot of great work for different charities. I know he's very involved with the Jockeys Foundation. I hadn't realized that until I had talked to him. So very, very interesting man, Tim Conway.
Yeah, he's also on the board of Parent Teachers Council, which is what they do is they, and there's so many. We have to be so careful when our kids watch television these days, where years ago, as you said, that block, the Mary Tyler Moore and the Carol Burnett show, you don't have to worry about that. But today, you really have to worry about what our children are watching on television. What Tim is trying to do is just say at a certain hour, just have real family programming. After 10 o'clock, fine, whatever you want to do, but at a certain time, like 7 and 8 o'clock, really should be family time. So he's been working a lot trying to get people to understand how important it is to bring that back to the family.